Welcome back to the Daily Stein Newshour. Today's news broadcast focuses on one of the biggest and most controversial issues facing America today: education. In today's current climate, the argument mainly centers around who should have control over public schooling, the federal or state governments. To start our coverage, we have special correspondent Jason Chang standing by. Jason?
Thanks, Benjamin. Now, with all this talk about school choice, many people may be wondering what this really means. Under the Trump administration, the number one priority in education is promoting school choice. This means that public, private, online, home, and charter schools are all viable options for parents. This has led to many controversy, as some argue this can cause a fracturing of our school system. So what are charter schools? Well, charter schools are government-funded public schools contrary to public belief. The difference comes in their autonomy charter schools have. They have control over their curriculum and are subject to being shut down if student performance does not meet certain standards. This focus on school choice shows that Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos shifts in priorities from past administration. Back to you, Benjamin.
In context, DeVos's changes represent huge shifts from the precedent of the Obama administration. Obama, with the help of his education secretary, Arne Duncan, focused on raising graduation rates, especially through the use of federal regulation. However, this plan was criticized heavily for only tackling smaller-scale issues. Under Trump, the focus has been shifted from fixing our public schools to promoting school choice, even at the cost of federal funding.
Let's take a look at Trump's initial budget proposal. As detailed by a recent NPR article, Trump's budget proposal calls for a $9.2 billion, or 13.5% cut to education funding, much of which comes from programs for after-school activities, teacher training, and literacy. The purpose of these cuts is to fund private school vouchers and the creation of charter schools, proposals which have since been rejected in congressional committees. Education Secretary DeVos has also taken an initiative in expanding school choice. The Education Department announced late September that grants totaling $253 million will be given to charter schools. According to DeVos, the grants will help supplement state-based efforts to give students access to more options for their education. This announcement did not go without criticism, however, as many argue that these grants work to prioritize wealthy schools over those schools that are more poverty-stricken. The Education Department report also details specific state-based grants that devolve power while encouraging the development of charter schools. These proposals demonstrate that Trump's commitment to school choice is definitely affecting the state of traditional public schools. With Trump focusing on funding and developing charter schools over traditional public schools, many programs that help to support and enrich public schooling are being cut, limiting the ability for them to help students. If this focus on charter schools continues, it could signal real danger for public schooling as we now know it. However, it's important to recognize that these plans are only proposals, and the budget finalized by Congress will likely be more equitable when it comes to distributing funding.
Back to you, Jason.
While we previously focused on high schools, we're going to take a quick look at the state of affairs of secondary education under the new administration. As federal and state agencies work to investigate some of the student loan scams students have fallen prey to, legal action has already been taken.
A recent Washington Post article has noted that the Federal Trade Commission, along with 11 states as well as D.C., have already filed several lawsuits against fraudulent companies claiming to promise debt relief. These scammers have already collected over $95 million illegally, hurting many students and getting away with it. The Federal Trade Commission says that the Education Department has failed in its duties to direct students towards proper and certified channels as they work to pay down loans, and instead exposes them to fraudulent companies. These companies promise debt relief, but in actuality take students' hard-earned dollars and in return provide nothing. Students pay down their debts to these fraudulent organizations in the belief that their debts will be forgiven, while in reality students' money is being taken and their debts remain full and intact.
More controversially, Secretary of Education DeVos has come under fire for delaying regulation that allows for for-profit colleges to take financial advantage of students. DeVos has considered suspending two specific Obama-era regulation, and that is what the majority of the controversy surrounds. By suspending these regulations, DeVos would be giving colleges a pass to defraud students. The first of these is the gainful employment rule, and it works to keep colleges in line by only granting certification to college programs where a certain high percentage of students are successful in paying off their loans. This ensures that faulty or predatory loan systems are kept uncertified. The second is the borrower defense repayment rule, which allows students to have loans forgiven in cases of fraudulent behavior on behalf of colleges. This discourages schools from engaging in fraudulent action. This has led to a group of Democratic attorneys general pursuing a lawsuit accusing DeVos of breaking federal law, allowing for-profit colleges to take advantage of their students.
Thank you for that scintillating reporting, Jason. We'll be right back after a short break with an exclusive debate between President Trump and Senator Sanders.
Did somebody say my name? I heard it. I swear to God I heard my name.
Jason, I bought you exactly what you wanted for your birthday. Go ahead, open it.
What is it, Mom? Oh, Weedos, my favorite! Now I can have my daily dose of energy.
Hello, my name is Chadrick, the head representative of the new 100% hemp-based snack food product, Weedos. So basically, I was sitting in my backyard, right? You know, looking out at my hemp garden, which totally is not illegal. Anyways, and I was like, what if we combined the great taste of Cheetos with a completely natural flavor of hemp? So if you want to see these new snacks on your shelf, then make sure you vote hemp in the next election.
Get off the camera, this is the police! Get out of here!
Welcome back. We're here in the studio with an exclusive debate between President Donald Trump and Senator Bernie Sanders. The question is, what impact do you think school choice has on public education?
I think there's a huge impact. Huge.
I agree, huge.
Okay, good. I win. We're done. The Donald wins again.
I think you're being a little premature here, Mr. President. While I do agree our education system has some flaws, I believe that your focus on school choice is taking things in the wrong direction.
Wrong. Everyone is saying to me, we love you, Mr. Trump. You are so right. That Colonel Sanders, so wrong. We need to let parents choose their schools. I mean, just take a look at the third best thing ever written, right after the Bible and The Art of the Deal. I'm talking about the Constitution. I mean, have you ever heard of freedom, Colonel? Freedom of choice over where we are sending our children is so very tremendously important.
First of all, it's Senator Sanders, not Coinel. That man represents everything that's wrong with the 1%. Terrible hair, ugly face, annoying voice, very full of himself. Just like another 1%er I know very well. Back to the point, however, I think there's something very important you're missing here. It's not about limiting choice. It's about making sure that our public schools have the full support of the federal government behind them. And the way to do that, Mr. President, is not by cutting the budget of the education department by 13%. Fracturing the school system only furthers this problem. Instead of focusing all the government's energies on improving a standard set of public schools, your education secretary is focusing on setting up thousands of charter schools, the majority of which are experimental and temporary endeavors. These charter schools are less regulated, meaning they have less accountability, are less transparent, and are able to segregate students more regularly.
Bernie. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have the best IQ. The best. What's wrong with wanting to give parents some choice, Bernie? If I had to take sweet little Bear into a public school, I would. I would just lose it. There's no problems with creating more choices. And just because something worked in the past doesn't mean we should stick with it forever. I mean, just look at the presidency. All those other presidents were losers. And then along comes the Donald. I do the president the best. Charter schools are the future.
Mr. President, I'm not saying that we shouldn't look into new avenues of education or that we should limit school choice. I just believe that we should provide good options for the students of America. Options that are well regulated, with proven and tested curriculums. Providing choice is obviously important, but providing good, fair, and diverse choices should be more important.
You're missing the big picture here, Bernie. Cutting costly, ineffective government programs is not the end of the world. It's part of our moral duty to make our government leaner and more accountable. By cutting the fat of public schools off, we can work to make a better system that works better for those kids who excel. Sticking to what worked in the past is not what a so-called progressive like yourself should be supporting.
Now back to the biggest problem in America, the 1%. Did you know that the top 10% of the top 1% of America has more wealth than the rest?
All right,
of the country?
that's it for tonight's debate.
This is a
Can
huge
it, Bernie?
problem. It
Now back to the
radically
studio.
increases income in-
Right now, I'm at the scene of John Adams High School, one of the many schools that will be affected by many of Trump's education priorities. As President Trump works to radically change the education system, more precedents from past administrations are being discarded. In one of his more recent and controversial decisions, Trump announced that he was bringing the DACA program to an end
unless Congress passed legislation legalizing the act. With as complex as a decision as this is, it is not surprising that it ties into the education system. While this change would obviously affect students, it also presents a huge dilemma for many teachers. A recent NPR article that researched this issue found out that 20,000 teachers are eligible for DACA status. Not only would DACA decision force these teachers to leave their jobs, but it would rid certain students of powerful influences in their lives. For students that may struggle with fitting in or learning English due to their international origins, DACA teachers can provide an important link between them and the education system, which we know is so vital.
Education is clearly a very complicated and divisive issue. With Trump's administration shifting focus towards school choice, many are worried that public school systems are in grave danger of losing prevalence and funding, only to be replaced by experimental and temporary charter schools. Fears also pop up over charter schools using their power to segregate students and create an environment that negatively affects students. However, those on the other side offer up that education is not a one-size-fits-all system, and the types of schools present should reflect that. The answer is likely somewhere in the middle. While we should all offer school choice, traditional public schools should be given full priority. Additionally, instead of giving charter schools total autonomy, they should be subject to some federal regulation. These charter schools should also have to prove that their proposed curriculums will have a positive impact on students, and won't treat them as guinea pigs, using them as a test run to see how these new ideas perform in the real world. Education is obviously a bipartisan issue, so it should be treated as such, with ideas from both the left and the right being considered. The whole purpose of education is to learn to be more open-minded, so the policy governing education should follow that same principle. Thanks for listening to the Daily Stein News Hour. This is Benny Stein, signing off. Do you know how to read?
Okay. Okay.
Also,
keep
look
going.
at you. I thought.
What a diva.
Don't make me flip this table, Jason.
Thank you, mama.
See what I have to do here. Shut up!
Read the damn lines.
Whoa!